But it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on your show.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into your world of business and your career arc, I want to know, 4.5 years ago or so, we were trying to deal with this pandemic, and it created so many ripples in our lives up to this point. How many lasting effects has COVID had and going through that pandemic had on your life up to this point?
Actually, it's interesting that you should ask because before COVID, I was a pretty much solo show, meaning like I was the accountant. I had a bookkeeper who helped me, and then like a part-time like a person who would come in and do some data entry and
Yeah.
like scanning and stuff, and then of course the receptionist. And then COVID hit, and I got really, really sick, and so I was like in bed trying to do a tax return because the deadline was right there.
Uh-huh.
And I totally did it wrong. And I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot be working when my brain is not working.
Yeah.
Um, I've never been sick with anything like I was sick with COVID before. And so from that day, I was like, I'm gonna need to hire more people because all my clients cannot depend just on me.
Yeah.
So literally after COVID, I try to, expand, hire more people and things like that. And in fact, I like sold my house and then pretty much expanded my business. So now it's not all on me. I have other accounts, but yeah, so COVID played a huge part in my personal life, honestly.
Yeah, well, and I think that I hear a lot from people that COVID did do good things. It was a bad time. It's not taking away from people getting sick and the things that were happening, but I think overall the shifts that people had in their lives, I've heard have been overwhelmingly positive. Like this here. I'm sure this has paid great dividends to have other people to rely on when you can't be there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, COVID also has a long lasting effect. Like I'm still sensitive with my smell, still can't smell a lot of things,
Wow,
just
really?
like the negative things. Yeah. Can't
You know,
do like a lot of colognes or perfumes anymore because like I smell just the alcohol in them.
oh wow. That's wild. Because
So,
I remember hearing stories where people never regained their smell or taste back, and I was like, that's sinister. That thing right there. Like
yeah.
I can I get that it goes away for a little while, but I've also seen people with long-term COVID, young people that are really not okay. Like it just totally transformed their biology.
Mm,
So
so sad.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's wild. So let's move on to happier things. I'm going to get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. So I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. One of the kids is curious and is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
So probably for a third grader, I'd say I do math all day, but I add numbers and put numbers in boxes and see what kind of calculations I get and things like that. So pretty much math all day.
So, what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream?
I actually always wanted to be a teacher. So
Okay.
that was always my dream to become a teacher. And surprisingly, I just realized this recently. I'm kind of a teacher in my own, like where I teach business owners how to do their own bookkeeping or how to do calculate their, things and how to calculate their profits and stuff like that. So essentially, I did become what I dreamt to become, a
Yeah.
teacher, just not teaching, elementary school, which is what I
Right.
wanted.
But your dream did come true. So I'm curious, how did this happen? Take me back to where you were born and raised. What were these seeds of numbers, math, business? How did this become your passion?
So I was actually born in Ukraine when it was all still part of USSR.
Yeah.
And I moved here when I was 8 years old and started school here. So I pretty much grew up in the US. I was very little when I was back in Ukraine. And math was always like my favorite. But coming in, moving to the US with immigrant parents with no English and things like that, like college was not an option for me. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think it was even a possibility. I wasn't like there was not enough information that I could have gotten financial aid. I could have got this, I could have got that. But yeah, it was never an option for me, which like what I felt like it was not an option for me. But in high school, I did have a teacher. She's like, "You're like really good at math and figuring things out. You should try this accounting class. You should try this business class." So she kind of really kind of pushed me into it. And it just accounting came so easy to me. like without even doing, if I'm being honest, like a lot of homework, and I
Yeah.
would just like pass the tests.
Yeah.
So it became like super easy for me. And then as part of like our high school, we were able to like work at local places like for extra credit or whatever. And so I was actually able to work in an accounting department. So I really enjoyed that. It was spreadsheets and all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So that's like what I kind of figured good at with accounting and things like that. With learning taxes, it became after when I was living in Alaska.
Yeah.
And my ex-husband started a construction company, and we really needed an accounting part of to it. But the nearest account was like 2 hours away, and this is gonna give away my age, but there was no fast internet back then.
Yep. Yep.
So you literally had to drive and drop off your stuff. So I pretty much signed up for school with long distance learning and submitted my test by mail and things like that. So really old school.
You know,
So that's how I learned it.
so it's interesting. I remember at one point an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, said to me, if you go in being an entrepreneur thinking you're going to make $1 billion, it's probably not going to work. But if you go in wanting to solve a problem, your chances of success increase quite a bit. And that's exactly what you did. You saw a problem and you went in and it kind of has become your life.
Yeah, pretty much. And then other people found out and they're like, "Oh, can you do my taxes as well?"
Yeah.
And so it's a super small community. We're in Alaska, and
Yeah.
then eventually I moved to Florida and decided to open Golden Apple Agency and just do this full time.
That had to be a culture shock to go from some place like Alaska to Florida, right?
It was, yeah. But I'm so happy I did it. I like Florida much better.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, the cold weather.
Alaska is beautiful though. Nothing
Yeah.
compares. Nothing compares, but it's cold.
So, are you familiar? Have you watched The Office? The guy,
Mhm.
have you watched it? So the character Rain, Dwight on there,
Yeah.
he has this show and he went on this pursuit of happiness. He's always just been a little bit kind of down. He has this career and he has a family and he has kids and all this stuff going on, but he's always just been a little bit down. So he decided to travel around the world to find what makes people happy. So he went, the number one place in the world that he found that people were the happiest was in Iceland.
Wow.
And a part of it is that whole mindset of like the Alaskan thing. Everywhere is beautiful. You're out in the wide open. So anyway, I just find it interesting that those places that are historically seen as cold tundras or places that, people might not go to are some of the most beautiful places with happy people in them.
Yeah. I mean, just living in Alaska, like nothing compares to the freshness of the air there and the
Uh-huh.
taste of the water.
Yeah.
Like you cannot get a better tasting water than in Alaska.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally get it. So let me ask you this. Who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you in your life and in your career?
Um, honestly, if I'm actually a Christian, so a lot of people that are my inspiration are faith-based.
Yeah.
So like Joyce Meyer is a big one for me. Stephen Furtick, even Joel Osteen. I know there's a lot of backlash with him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they're really positive people and positive outlooks on everything. But also pretty much every business owner that you can listen to, like that is very motivational. Um, because being a business owner, it's a roller coaster and you have a lot of downsides, like a lot of negative things. It's not like you get a paycheck and you have determined income. So there's a lot of uncertainty and things like that.
Yeah.
And just staying positive is so important. That pretty much like the motivational speakers. So like Grant Cardone was a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's super motivational and he's like, you go at all 10x
Uh-huh.
instead of, a little bit. You don't have any money, you go out all out.
Yeah, 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 for sure. So let me ask you this. Of all the business owners, all the businesses that exist out there, what's one that you admire? An entrepreneur, a business owner that maybe you would like to hang out with and you could learn a little bit from them? Someone that you admire from the top down, the way they operate, their profit margin. Is there somebody like that?
So with me personally too, I don't. don't have like I don't put people on the pedestal
Yeah.
because if you do that and then you read something about them on the news, then
Yeah.
you're having a hard time. So I try not to focus on the people too much, but just like on what they're saying. I don't know if you have ever heard this, do as I preach instead of what I do.
Yeah. Right.
So, because there's, as soon as someone becomes famous, there's like a lot of controversy behind that and things like
Hmm.
that, and people try to attack their character and whatever. So I really try to, focus on like what they're talking about or like their teachings instead of a specific person. But if I'm being honest, it would be like local people here in like my city or my community. They might not be millionaires or whatever, but who have success, who try to succeed or succeeded and
Yeah.
specifically women owned owned.
Sure. Sure. So let me ask you this. You talked about how hard it is to be a business owner and the failures and things that happen. What is it that motivates you every day to overcome those things that are difficult and to be the best that you can be and to take care of your employees? What is that motivation for you?
Um, I think the biggest one is like the positive outlook that there's still a chance. Like today's so bad, but tomorrow could be so much better,
Yeah.
you know? And and honestly, of course, my daughter. So I have a daughter. I actually adopted her from when she was born. She's Alaska Native, and I want to inspire her that she can achieve anything she wants to and things like that as well. She obviously does look up to me every day. She hates math, so accounting is not something she's into. We joke. I'm like, if you don't go to college and you don't get good grades, you're going to be working in accounting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this. Speaking of youth, if you had a dream tonight, you ran into a young version of you, 18-year-old, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you give your younger self?
Start right now.
Yep.
Don't wait. Start now. And also, all the people that you think are all good and made it is not true.
Yeah.
Don't even focus on them. Just because they have initials after their name doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
The not when going to college and earning a degree is not the same as understanding and knowing what you're doing.
Yep. Very, very good advice. So let me ask you this. What's the best advice that you've ever gotten professionally?
Um, what the other people's opinion of you or somebody who doesn't pay your bills, their opinion is none of your business.
Yeah.
So like we get hung up like a competitor or something would say something negative about you and you're so upset because it's not true or whatever, but they're not paying your bills, so it's none of your business.
Yep.
Now
Yep.
the
Yep.
customers are paying your bills, so it is your business.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing. Yeah, totally. So, of everything that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Personally or like work
Probably
wise?
either way. Yeah, it could be personal, it could be professional.
I would say my daughter, adopting
Yeah.
my daughter would be the best one.
Yeah.
Professionally is like um my the career I started, the Golden Apple agency that I started. I know like with employees and things like that, I've have numerous employees tell me that this is the best job they ever had.
Cool.
When they have to leave and it's not because someone is fired or quitting, it's because of like more like they're moving away or something.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, employees, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, we are our worst critic.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
my perception of me is I can always do better.
I get it. I totally get it. What's the greatest thing about living in Jacksonville, Florida?
The ability to go to the beach and watch the sunrise, because how you
Yeah.
start the day
Yeah.
is how you know your day is gonna go.
So does that shine ever wear off? Does that thrill of being next to the ocean ever go away?
I don't think so, no. You get used to it, so
Yeah.
you don't really care to go, to the beach every day.
Yeah.
But just the ability of knowing that you can
Yeah.
already is like awesome.
Yeah, I always wonder that when I go down to Florida because I'm just looking around like, do you have any idea what you get to see every day? Because in Kansas City, we're landlocked. There's no big body of water, there's no mountains. So anytime I get to a place that has terrain, I'm wondering if the locals just absolutely are aware of what they get to wake up to every day.
Yeah, I think it's just the whole thing. You get
Yeah.
used to it.
Yeah.
Anybody gets used to anything.
That's it. That's very true. So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, learn more about what you're doing, any of the good business, how do they do that?
They can just go to our website, goldenappleagencyinc.com,
Okay.
and reach out through there. We are starting a DIY program where for people who are starting a business or in small business, they can't really afford an accountant, but have questions. So we're doing like a subscription base where they're able to have access to one and ask their questions because there's so much misinformation out there on the TikTok and Instagram reels and things like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I listen, I'm like, oh my goodness, please don't.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Tanya, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your story. Have a wonderful 2025.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.